tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You are now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Harut, and got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Brother, just keeping my eyes to the sky and ears to the street.
Hey, man, same here, man. Same here, man. Just trying to, like I always say, man, I'm trying to get like you, my brother.
You ain't far behind. King.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But
front,
before
on the Bazi front, I'm right behind. I'm behind you.
Hey, man. we gonna get across that.
Some of them Patreons. I might have to chime in on some of them Patreons now. I might be missing a whole lot of meals up in there.
Man, let's do it. You already know, man. They, we make it happen for sure. Indeed. But before we get too far, go ahead. What you about to say?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, before we get too far, I want to remind you all, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. If you hadn't liked already, go ahead and like this video. It's good for the algorithm, good for what we got going on and stuff like that, or whatnot, whatever platform you're on. If you're live, you're watching this on YouTube or, whatever, streaming platform you're listening to this on, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Share this with your people. And remember that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all. Big up to the patrons out there. For sure. We've been getting a lot of stuff done or whatnot, but definitely continue to, send your questions in and everything like that from Patreon. And we'll definitely get with you and continue to deliver some exclusive content to you all or whatnot. But if you don't know, if you want to reach us on social media, best place to reach us is on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram at Cosmic Convo. That's CosmicConvo on Instagram. And you can find Push It Forward on Instagram as well at PUSHITFWD. Either one of those two places, you can get to everything related to Cosmic Convos and everything related to the Push It Forward Podcast Network for sure or whatnot. Definitely stay tuned into there. Check out the Single Dad Podcast, the Plant Based with Love Podcast or whatnot, the whole gambit or whatnot. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
My IG, like the brother said, or Facebook is usually the best way. Shechem Ra via either one of those. That's my tag. Or if you want to hit me up via calipruciaastrology@gmail.com. A lot of people have been hitting me up for their astrological consultations, so keep them coming. Much appreciated. And in the future here, like I said, there will be a website. It is in development. It's a very long process because I'm particular about what I put out and I want it to be in a certain light. So forgive me for the delay, but it should be out within the next week or so. Let's look for that next next Wednesday. I might be making an announcement to go ahead and go onto the website and go ahead and get yourself set up as far as your newsletter and your monthly updates.
Big up to that, man. For all the students out there, this is that Chitra Nakshatra type of significators right there, man. Perfectionist, fine tuning.
Man, you ain't never lied. Chitra got it bad, man. Yeah, fine tuning, exactly.
Indeed.
You could have said it better than that, man.
Hey, man, it's real, man. The Nakshatra's in live action, in real time. That's how we do it or whatnot. But
That's what allows me to do what I do. You know.
yeah, it's a powerful nakshatra. I got a planet in there and stuff like that and whatnot. So I could relate a little bit, you know, or whatnot. But
Oh
shoot,
yeah, I
man,
know you can. But it causes relentless.
yeah, man, how on either end, but it comes into play or whatnot. I think it balances some things out for sure.
It does. This is it's Shitra is a demoniacal nakshatra. So they go through, that perfectionism makes you become like a demon when, getting things done. It's like it will get done. You can become possessed with a project. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely can relate to that, man. Shout out to Chitra. You know, one of the Mars ruled nakshatras out there. Indeed. But here we are, episode 10, season 4, episode 85 overall. Big up to that and whatnot. We're trucking along with this season and stuff like that, constantly fine tuning things, doing the cheater thing, getting it right, getting things together or whatnot, So I think, we're in a pretty good slot. Shout out to everybody that's in the live chat right there, man. Big up to y'all. Pretty soon, we'll I don't know, man. We'll bring some callers on or whatnot. We'll bring some callers on. I don't got it quite set up for that right now. It's close. I technically I probably could, but we ain't practice it and stuff like that. So we'll make sure we smooth selling and stuff like that. But go ahead, definitely put your comments in the chat. This is one of them topics that's pretty open ended. You know what I'm saying? I think anybody can catch this and relate, to this growing up in the West or whatnot. If you see the cover art and everything like that, you definitely know what we're talking about or whatnot. When we've been chatting enough. So without further ado, unless Rod, you got something you want to say before we jump into the topic wholeheartedly?
No, let's just dive right in. Let's just get it done.
Indeed. So, we sometimes we some troublemakers and stuff like that. So we start picking at, contemporary society, the outer culture and stuff like that. And, I've seen this often, you talking to people, you dealing with people and stuff like that. And then when they, learn that you practice, a more ancient form of astrology, a more ancient, perspective of astrology with the, with the Vedic astrology using the sidereal zodiac, sidereal measure or whatnot, and people learn some different things about, what's going on in their chart that's contrary to what they've been taught the whole time. A common phrase I hear is like, well, I'm addicted to my sign. I'm addicted to my zodiac sign. I can't see myself not being a Cancer. I'm a petty Cancer. I'm a I'm a bossy Leo or whatever and stuff like that. But oftentimes what you find is that, you read, what it said about it. And you might see some of the, correlations and stuff like that, but it's not like a hardcore, kind of pinpoint, like, yeah, this is what you got going on here and stuff like that. So I think, I think this is a good time for us to kind of go over that whole notion of why we even think like that and why, this is even, why is it, important to kind of walk away from that line of thinking. You understand what I'm saying? Because I know, like, just even in the world when I'm dealing with people, I'm a practical guy. You understand what I'm saying? Very practical guy. I deal with a lot of serious practical people and stuff like that. But that line of, thinking that, kind of the way that astrology has been marketed to the world has really removed, has turned off a lot of people from utilizing it. You understand what I'm saying? Because they think that it's not a real science. They don't think that it has any real practical, application in actual life and stuff like that. So today we're going to definitely break that down, explode that myth, and hopefully we can get some people on the right track. What you think, Rob?
Yeah, let's tighten it up. Let's tighten everybody up. We're gonna really try to put it into perspective today, so they really can get an understanding of what happens and why. Why do people attribute themselves to something that they know, one, very little about, and number two, it just becomes kind of a mantra, right? Something
Right.
you repeat that you don't really know what you're saying.
Right.
And one of the things is that you know um, astrology has been really given it's been given a bad name. It's a pseudoscience. It holds no bearing or any weight in real life.
Right.
The impacts fit. I've heard that fits everybody. Well, some everybody has a bossy side to them,
Uh-huh.
right? I've heard. Um, I've heard on both, right? that's a famous one. I'm both, right? I've heard
Yeah, yeah. You talking about
Western astrology is more spiritual.
uh-huh. You talking about both, like you somebody who got
You
introduced to
know,
both sciences, and then they find they say that they're both signs. They see it. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard I heard that before too.
right? I'm both. I've heard that I'm more. The Vedic is more the spiritual, and the tropical is more the physical. So on the physical side, this is what I am. I'm like, okay. So I've heard quite a few you know ex- explanations of why people are attached to what they think they are,
Right.
and for good reason. I can understand, because we live in a society that's just divorced from truth for all intents and purposes, and people just take things for face value. And so it makes sense to get a bad rap. It makes sense that the science that you would read, because you'll hear people say, some of that is me, right? Or yeah, that's kind of how I operate. Or yeah, that's some of that might be right, but not all of it, right? That's a
Right.
common kind of thing that you'll hear with Western astrologers. I've heard it, right? Well, it makes sense because you're not using the science in the way it was intended. We live in a Western society, and the West, for all intents and purposes, is an externalized masculine society. It doesn't really take into consideration the yin side of existence, the female side, the softer side, the internal side, the meditative side, the reflective side. All that is fairly foreign to the West.
Right.
Well, take into consideration not only that, right? And people say, well, you're beating up on tropical astrology. And I'm not beating up on anything. It speaks for itself.
Right.
When you begin to understand, astrology is an observational science, but in the sense of observation, the only time you can observe the stars is at night. You have to go out, take a look, find out the coordinates, and really observe and measure. Well, observing something at night is more of an internal process.
Right.
Um, Being meditative with it and taking it within to understand those positions is a yin process.
Right.
Seeing something over time to allow things to repeat themselves is a yin process. Yang is instant, yin is, right, takes time. So, it's easy to have an instant kind of microwave answer for, our personality dispositions. We live in a microwave society. Everything's instant. So if I have to think about this any further than a day, right, then really I don't go that most people don't go that far, because it takes you, to research and to go beyond the comfort zone of what you've been accustomed to.
Right.
The other thing is that, in the West here, we have a kind of we're divorced from reality. We live in a false sense of reality. People that are, and I don't like to say third world countries, but let's just say, for example, before we had cell phones, right? Before you had email, before you had any of those things, you had to physically get out and do things. They're still, they're coming out of that stage in the third world countries, but they're still somewhat manual in how they do things. And so that manual side is the side that we write the calculations down and
Right.
measure it as we see it, not based on a left brain approach, which is more computer oriented. Of course, computers help. I'm not against programs. People say, well, it's not, I'm not against them. I'm just saying that the art, the artistic side of astrology has been lost. Astrology is like storytelling to some degree. When I sit down and we come up with a consultation, it's a story that I'm telling. The art of storytelling is a right brain function, right? It's a yin thing, right? Data, information, dot your I's, cross your T's. That's the yang side. So, when you see a date, it's just easy to take that date, apply it. It's very simple, it's very acute, and then run with it.
Right.
That's what we do. Well, that's furthest from astrology. That's not astrology. That's not even close to what astrology is, right? Astrology is a science of patterns, right? It's a science
Right.
of understanding the repetitious process of nature. So, how many people are born August 1st?
A
A lot.
lot. A whole lot.
It tells very little. It tells very little about who you are, what you come to do, what your tendencies are. It's just a very small piece of the puzzle. It's almost, you can consider the sun as like the cherry on top of the chart. It's kind of like the crowning piece. And it makes sense because the sun is the king. It's the crowning piece. You know,
Right.
Back in the day, we used to have, Christmas trees, and the whole thing of the Christmas tree, yeah, you put your ornaments on, but the thing that was at the top, right, that made the tree.
Right.
So the sun sign is kind of like that. It's the cherry on top. It's kind of like what spins the chart and puts kind of like a special essence on it. But without that sun sign, everything else is tantamount to who you are. In fact, it's more of who you are than the sun sign. You eat the cherry only once, right? You have to eat the rest of it, right, in stages and in degrees. That sun is the cherry. So,
Right.
we take the cherry, which is kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? The cherry sits on top, so does the tip of the iceberg. Where that tip of the iceberg, you got 80% left. Not to mention how that 80% is integrated with that particular sun or with that particular placement. So it's a holistic thing, right? It's never one placement. As soon as you read one placement, you know what happens in astrology? The next placement comes and you have to read that. And the next
Yeah.
placement comes and the next placement and the next placement. And by the time you're done reading anything that's worth reading, you're about 8, 9 placements in already.
Right.
So the sun sign is very small in its impact. It only impacts you to a degree later, much later in life. You have to get to it. It's not something that's innate. So we in the West look to the sun, the masculine, the the obvious, right? As far as our personality makeups are concerned. But that is not even, again, I could remove the sun sign and have volumes of information about you without it. It just becomes a distraction. That cherry is what everyone wants. And here's the craziest thing about Western astrology. Have you ever noticed, Atef, that people try to get like with people that are around born or near to right around the same time? Like, oh, I'm a Virgo. Oh, you're a Virgo. Right.
Right.
That is the worst thing you could do. Right. That's one of the worst things you could do. Right. Reason being is because, for example, right, the sun takes 30 days to move throughout a sign on average, 360 days plus 5 per year. Right.
Right.
So on average, right, it takes 1 degree per day. Moves very moves like a clock. So let's say our sun signs are almost. Let's say we're born on the exact same day. My mate and I.
Right.
Well, guess what? When things impact that person, I get
It's
impacted
gonna.
too.
Yeah, there's no
At the
balance.
same time, there's no differential, right? There's no
Yeah.
balance. There's no breadth. So you remember, I don't remember Michelle. I'm telling you, you don't know what you want, right? You asking for what you want, you don't know what you want, right? You have to go to somebody that's competent in divination and in certain practices to know what you really want. You don't really know.
Right.
We want the one that's like us. We want our. It goes so deep. People ask for twin flames. I want my twin flame,
Yeah, these are interesting
right?
concepts.
I want my. We already. It is interesting. I want my twin flame. You want to have someone like yourself to be comfortable, right? Comfort is within similarity.
Hmm.
Dissimilar is discomfort, right? But that discomfort is actually more comforting because you have someone else that can at least say or do things that you aren't capable of doing,
Right.
right? So, trust me, we will get to your questions in the chat here soon. So, keeping that in mind, it's the sun sign that everyone is locked in on, and again, the sun sign is at best 20% of who you are. Not only that, right? Not only that, let's just say that the astrology was right, right?
Right.
Even if it was just your sun sign that you keyed in on, right? You would literally, if you matched yourself with someone else, you would literally be at each other's throat constantly. It's like having your sibling around.
Hmm.
Someone that's similar to you has the same dispositions. That means that the breadth of action is going to be monopolar. It's going to be one dimensional, and you get tired of you faster than you would get any tired of anyone else. Trust me,
It's interesting
we're
that you
too
say
much
that.
alike.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know two people who were born on my same day, same year. Right. I know them.
Hmm.
We there's some similarities there. The other two people I know are actually women. I don't know a guy that was born on the same exact day and year of me, but I know two other women that were born the same day, same year as me. Very different. Very different. Very different, lives, different careers, you know, different amount of children up to this point. I mean, you could just go down the list. We look different, different shaped
Right,
heads. You understand what I'm saying? The whole
everything is
gambit.
different. Right, right. Being born on the day of, right, and so
Day of
considering
and
that,
year. Same
that's
same
just,
time
I
zone.
mean,
Different
you're
times though.
so just imagine all of you are sitting around, right, and you're talking about your sun sign, and you're like, well, this stuff doesn't work, right? Because we're all different.
Right.
It makes sense, right? We're all very different, but we're born on the same day. All that stuff is malarkey,
Hmm.
right? Nah, nah. See, the moon has a range in a day. The moon
Right.
ranges 13 degrees within a day, right? That 13 degrees is enough to change all kinds of different things, right? 13 degrees, 20 minutes to be exact. Not only that, the ascendant, that key time of birth is so crucial. Literally 20 minutes. If someone was, okay, everyone, since you want to know, or maybe some of you want to know, Dr. Umar Johnson and I are born within 43 minutes of one another, right? He is born 43 minutes before me. I think maybe 23 minutes if I'm not correct. If I'm correct. 23 minutes. That means he and I should be fairly the same. Same ascendant, almost everything, right? But those changes in degrees change the navamsha, right?
Right.
It changes the dasamsha, right? And
Mm.
so that change, right? it changes a whole lot. Just from those, I'm talking about not even an hour, right? So
Right.
consider that, right? That and do it, Dr. Umar. Isn't it strange that he both is in front of the people? I'm in front of the people, not like he is, but definitely still have a leadership position and role.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, some of his thought processes are similar but different, right?
Yeah.
The approach, the conscious, right? The the ideas behind it. The ascendant changes. His ascendant is actually in Swati,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Swati. Yeah.
And mine is in Vishaka,
Mm-hmm.
right? Swati changes things, right? Just the nakshatra ascendant changes everything,
Right.
right? His relationship with Rahu is different than mine, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's his Swati. If that's his ascendant, then that's
Right,
a
right, right. So his Rahu is going to be more prominent, right?
right.
My ascendant is Vishaka. So Jupiter is going to be more prominent. Knowledge of
Right.
self, spirituality, right? Higher knowledge. His is more changing, up, changing our ancient trends, moving people towards directions of education, right? Which
Right.
is what he promotes primarily, and it's childhood education, which is where his Rahu sits. So again, right? It that nakshatra change, just the minutes changes everything, right? Even though we have some similarities, we're very, 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 very different.
Right.
So again, just the time of birth within the same day, within the same hour, right, changes things. So that is how accurate and how precise the science is when you get down to the timing of things, that's when things become that's when things are revealed. The thing is that within this particular astrology, right, things overlap, okay? And this is where most of the confusion comes in. So for example, and let's just like some ground rules, right? The sun, right, never has Venus move more than 48 degrees from his position, meaning that Venus can never be further than that from the sun, either forward or behind it. What does that
Right.
mean? It can only be at maximum 2 signs away.
Mm-hmm.
Maximum. Mercury is can only be 28 degrees from the sun, meaning it can only be 1 sign difference forward or backward from the sun.
Right.
So, why does that matter? Well, when planets overlay, let's say, for example, my sun is at 19 degrees Pisces,
Mm-hmm.
right? But my Mercury is at, let's say, 4 degrees Aries. When a person looks at their sun sign, they're going to attribute those qualities of them. And remember, I'm talking the difference between Western and Eastern, of course. In the West, right?
Right.
The person says, "Well, yeah, I'm these characteristics." And let's just use a different example. We're gonna same example, but let's ad lib a little. Let's say in the Western astrology sense, their sun is in Aries, right? Mercury is in Aries too. But in the sidereal, the sun moves back to Pisces, but Mercury stays in Aries.
Right.
That means the person's still going to think, reason, calculate, communicate, express, right? In an Aryan type way. So because of the overlay or the overlap, or where the planets kind of, the signs will say, okay, there's one back, but there's still another planet over here that reads that particular energy. That's where a lot of the confusion comes from. I had a sister friend of my former friend. She used to always say, I'm Aries, I'm Aries, I'm Aries. When really her Mercury was in Aries, but her sun was clearly in Pisces, right?
Right.
A lot of these kind of so when that happens, you're reading something and you because you feel it. You know, people base it on how they feel, and it makes sense because you should be able to register what it is that you're feeling. But consider, right? If I have a mercurial energy, mercurial thought process of a warrior, of a commander, of a leader, I'm always going to think in that way. So therefore, I would attribute my son to be in that sign. It's very easy to do.
It you
But
know, and I
when you realize, no, you're
that was an observation that I got as well because a lot of like you know I'm born in November and whatnot, so a lot of qualities that people would attribute to being a quote unquote Sun in Scorpio, I see it with my Venus placement because my Venus is in Scorpio.
right. Exactly. You got planets in Scorpio.
Right.
So you're going to feel
Too. Yep.
Scorpion. And I mean, think about Mercury is a very personal planet. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking personal planets, folks.
Very fast movement. Yep.
Mercury is considered a personal planet. Mars, very fast moving. Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter are not personal planets because they don't affect the personality in the sense of they do, but not in the sense of the immediate response. Meaning that a child has to talk at some point, right?
Right.
A child's ability to have patience, endurance, and long suffering is a later development, but the person's mouthpiece is going to work pretty much from the age that they begin to communicate. So those are personal planets. Those planets are within the sun's grasp, right? So that means that they're literally going to formulate who you are faster than the older planets that are outside of the sun's influence, right? Outside
Right.
of Mars, meaning, right? So the personal planets are going to carve you and make you function just like the sun would if it were near to or close to that planet because they're only so many degrees apart.
Mm-hmm.
So if Mercury is in Aries, you're going to think like an Arian, despite if Sun is in Aries, Taurus, or Pisces. It could be in one of those positions, right? If the Sun is in Taurus, right, and Mercury is in Aries, you're still going to think you're going to be in Aries because you reason like one.
Right.
See, that's the trick. Mercury can act like the Sun in many regards because it's how we think, it's how we calculate. And if we calculate like a warrior, you're going to think you're a warrior until I point out the fact that no, you are actually one that tries to help people more than the average person because the sun in Pisces has an innate desire to give. And then a person's like, "Yeah, you right. I was wondering why." Because Aries, when you see Aries sun, there's no mistaking it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
There's no
pretty.
mistaking an Aries sun, folks.
Yeah,
It's intense.
I got one for you,
It's
Dame
not
Dash.
passive. It doesn't dilly dally. Oh wow, perfect. I wonder what Dame's
Moon,
sun degree
moon.
is. That'd be interesting to
We
think about.
yeah, but I know it's Moon. You know, Moon is in Leo. Shout out to my Leo Moon people. Sun's in Aries.
Leo fan in the house.
Sun's in Aries. I mean, we don't have a good time on it, but we know that. You know
That's
those
you.
things.
You don't even need it. You don't need
Yeah,
it. You see the sun in Aries. I was watching. It's funny that you said something about Dame. I was wondering what Dame was. I was wondering what Dame was. I was seriously contemplating what is Dame
that's yeah.
because I never looked. Right, I never had the inclination to look, but
Mm-hmm.
I would wonder, and I watched him. It was at a an awards, and he was approaching Daniels, the guy that Precious, the guy that wrote Precious, Lee Daniels. There we
Lee
go.
Daniels. Yeah.
And Lee Daniels, right? He was approaching Lee Daniels, and he wanted his money back. He wanted something he invested. He wanted it back.
Right.
Now, most people have, some degree of decorum of tact when it comes to things. But Dame was in the middle of the award, standing up, talking to Lee Daniels, and they're the only two standing. And he's telling them, man, I need
Like,
my
yeah,
bread with the quick. And Lee's like, no, 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 let's try to work this out. He's like, nah, man,
nah,
I
man,
need my bread. Now, this is Aries Ascendant. It's in the middle of an award show, folks. It got cameras rolling. You can see it. You can go Google Dame Dash and Lee Daniels, right? You'll see
right,
Dame was standing there and was not going to move, right? That's Aries Ascendant. I mean, that's Aries Sun. Aries Sun is relentless and they are fearless,
right,
right? They hit their heads quite often. Literally, the sun is in the sign of the head, so they hit their heads quite often. That sun energy it's not to be wrestled with. Only other fire signs can appreciate that kind of fire because it's so hot and intense.
right,
Right. If you have
right.
some fire in your chart, you can appreciate it because you understand the intensity behind it, the drive, the ambition,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But again, right, that you'll know when you meet Sun in Aries. Hate to say it like this again. Nature boy, he has Sun in Aries 15 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that he's the sharpest knife in the drawer, but he's Sun in Aries. He's straight up and down, Sun in Aries. If he would
But
just listen a little bit, he might be happy with it. He might be like, that's what's up, right? Because it is exalted.
mm-hmm. Right.
Right?
Yeah, Dame got a hard.
His sun
He
is
got
exalted.
Dame got Mars. He got exalted. Mars, Sun in Aries, Moon in Leo. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
He,
and then look at that. Look at that. Mars is exalted.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the sun's lord is exalted.
Right.
Right. Saturn is his only weakness, and Saturn is really not all that weak considering it's in a friendly sign.
With Mercury, but
So I mean,
but
he has a
it's
very
canceled.
yeah. Well, the Saturn in Taurus is strong.
Yeah, but now I was talking
Saturn in
about
Taurus is strong.
Mercury
We're talking
debilitated.
about that Venus, yeah, but that Venus is exalted.
Right.
So I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's gonna be broken. This, even though he took a hit with Rockefeller, right?
Mm-hmm.
He took a hit with Rockefeller, but I mean, considering it, think about this: Rockefeller's gone, and he's still arguing about money with Lee Daniels. So Rockefeller might have took a blow, but it wasn't like it dropped him or floored him.
Right.
Right? He still was able to come back, right, and at least to have some resolve and have a presence. He's not going anywhere. I think he's got of a few deals. I think he's got some stuff with some right Sun and
Yeah, Mercury been getting busy. Mercury been getting busy lately, and where he'll pop back in or whatnot. But yeah, to rock him back, just looking at that, right? So if we took it from a tropical perspective, everything in his chart goes backwards. I mean, goes forward, right? So then the sun will fall into Taurus, right? Moon will go into Virgo. Mars goes into Aquarius. It changes the whole disposition of this brother, just as an example or whatnot. So, there we go. We good. Yeah, I
so
was just telling you, Mercury getting busy right now.
oh, no doubt, no doubt. Mercury is active. I mean, it's in that third, it's in that Gemini, I mean, and then on top of that, it's square in its natal position. But nonetheless, I mean, if you
Yeah.
moved everything over, he wouldn't be the
Yeah.
person he is.
Totally different guy.
Moon goes into Virgo. Moon goes into Virgo, right?
Hmm.
Sun goes into Taurus,
Right.
right? Mercury goes into Aries. That's a different person, right? Venus goes into Aries. That's completely
Jupiter goes
different,
in Sag. That's this. It just
right?
it been
And trust me, Jupiter and Sag. Oh, you're gonna see Jupiter and Sag too,
right.
right? Moral compass, strong moral compass, right?
Hmm.
Strong disposition to teach and acknowledge, right? The supreme through to others. Jupiter and Sag is gonna preach, even if it's not preaching in the sense it's on a pulpit, right? It still has a moral. It has some degree of moral feedback. Not to say he's immoral, but I'm saying as you can see him, I don't think spirituality, higher knowledge, or truth is high on his list.
Maybe in later in his life he's gotten a little bit into it, but it's not like it's not a fixation like that. Like I hear him talking about things like that
No,
now, but it's not
no,
Jupiter and Sag. It's not Jupiter. Malcolm X is Jupiter and Sag, right? You know what I'm saying? It's a different.
that's Jupiter and Sag. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So you see what I mean? That is, and then Jupiter would aspect Sun. Right. I'm
Right.
no, it wouldn't, because Sun would no
Hold up.
Sun would still move into Sun would still no, it
Yeah.
wouldn't, the aspect wouldn't happen. Right. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, Jupiter and Sag, you'll know.
Hmm.
See, these are things that you can take to the bank. You'll know. You just know. Right. Jupiter in Scorpio makes perfect sense. Right. Perfect sense. It's in Anuradha. Right. Jupiter is, Anuradha is the sign of friendship. Right.
Hmm.
And considering, I mean, if it's in Anuradha and it's aspected by Saturn, that talks about portrayal through friends, right? Right,
Yeah.
straight up, right? So because Saturn is the ruler of Anuradha and it's in opposition to or in a fight with Jupiter from its placement, betrayal. So its chart fits so well, it's uncanny. Um, but moving those planets over one sign, you wouldn't get the relentlessness,
Hmm.
right? Mars still stays. Mars even changes signs. Almost every planet in his chart changes signs when you use tropical.
Right.
That means a
Right.
different being altogether. And think about it from this perspective, because people say, well, how would he look at it if it was in Western? Well, Sun is in Taurus, so that means somebody's gonna say, well, you're about money. See, Sun in Taurus is about money. That is true. Not
Hmm.
always, right? Sun and Taurus can mean they can have a propensity to have goals that orient themselves around nice things, right? That is one of the things Sun and Taurus can do, but depending upon the nakshatra, right? Because each nakshatra is going to be different, right? In Taurus, the real truthful part of nakshatra of Taurus that is about pleasure is Rohini,
Hmm.
right? Kritika is not so much. Mrigashira is to some degree, but the real part of Taurus that is pleasure, pleasure, pleasure is Rohini. Right? So his son would be in Rohini,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't be him.
Nah.
So you see what I mean? Rohini is a soft nakshatra. It's soft, literally. It's tender. They call it tender. He ain't tender, right?
Nah.
Saturn is in right Kritika. Saturn in Kritika is intense.
Hmm.
So this person's intense all the way around. Jupiter in Scorpio, intense.
Right.
Mars in Capricorn, intense.
With Rahu.
Right. Nicki Minaj has Mars in Cap with Rahu. And Rahu's moving backwards towards Mars. He's not after Mars, he's before Mars. He's eating towards Mars. So it's intense. See
Right.
the applying aspect of Rahu. Rahu can be in the same sign. Is it after or before? If it's after, it moves backwards towards it, which now
Mm-hmm.
he's being eaten, consumed. It's consuming. He's addicted to power, right? Sun in Aries squared Mars in Capricorn with Rahu. He's addicted to power. That's what that means. Addiction to power. Rahu is addictions, right? Mars with Rahu creates the insatiable need to be the winner. And then Sun in Aries, the winner. You can see this on this man all day,
Right.
right?
Right.
If we put him again, just moving planets around, right? Sun and Venus, I mean Sun and Mercury, Venus and Mercury in Aries, that don't no, that don't do that. So considering, right, then you can begin to understand why, right? Someone, I mean, I'm sure he himself, right? Oh, I'm Taurus, right? I'm about the money, and it makes sense because he is about money.
Right.
He is, but that's not where it comes from. That's not the money. That's not the money. That's not the money source.
Right.
We don't know his time, which is what would reveal the money source. That's what we really need, right? But
I
in all
mean,
truth,
playing
right?
around with it.
Yeah, it's
I know
yeah,
he has
Libra.
diabetes, got diabetes, real bad diabetes actually. Um, a couple, playing around with it, but there's no time. I love to act. I love to, just get it from
Look,
him.
just be dope because it'd be trip if Mars or Sun was in the ascendant, right? That would be crazy.
Right. Right.
Because if he was the embodiment of that, would make even more sense. I mean, if we put Sun in the ascendant, yeah, no, we'd have to get the time because it just
Yeah.
there's so many possibilities. I mean, Jupiter in Scorpio in the ascendant could do the same thing.
Hmm.
Mars, Rahu in the ascendant, Sun in the ascendant. Venus, I would tell you this: I wouldn't see him as Pisces ascendant. That's for sure, right?
Yeah.
Not with not with that combination, right? He
Hmm.
could be Leo ascendant. I could see that too, because usually Leo ascendant with Moon in it, the person's shorter. They have a shorter disposition. So, you know, it's hard to say, but this is just a classic example of when you move placements around, the effects change completely.
Indeed. I mean,
There's
and
no
then
Dame
even
Dash with that place.
absolutely, and even beyond that, I mean, like just the idea that most people don't even when you say, "Oh, I'm a blah 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 blah." My bad. I'm a blah blah blah. Most people don't even know what planet they're even talking about. They just think that there's just like just some nebulous sign or something like that. Like I'm a Scorpio or whatever. You got to look at the totality of your chart. You can't tell nothing from the sun. Yeah, I mean, you a little bit, but not. You can't. If you know my sun placement, that tells you nothing about me. Nothing about my trajectory. Nothing about how I show up in the
That's why
world.
like you can have it if you want. You get yeah. Don't do anything. Nothing. Right? And then people
Right.
base their whole relationships on this stuff. Like, oh my God, you're a Capricorn. I'm a Cancer. Right. Like, don't work that way. Right. If it did, trust me, everybody would be happy. Right. Right. All you got to do is pop out. What's your birthday? My birthday's this. Let's sail on. Right. Never
Nah.
works that way. Anything that's simple, you don't want it anyway. Right? So, that's consideration. But there's some other things I want you to keep in mind about how to really determine and cut it down the middle. Right. One of the things is that the Caracas are always a dead giveaway.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
When I say Caracas, what do you mean? So Dame, right? If we could do a little research on Dame and maybe pop the hood, we might see that his son, his father, right, which is the Karaka or the indicator, the living personage of what the sun represents in the chart. Of course, we got to look at the ninth house, the ninth lord, right, and impacts therein. That always is the tell is a telltale of what is going on with the father. But stripping it from that, just the sun alone gives us many times an indicator of what is going on with that particular person in an individual's life. So, to give you an example, I was on Bigo, right now. I'm no longer on Bigo, right? Bigo is a cesspool. I am just don't have the time nor energy to invest into a format like that. You might see me pop on every blue moon, but it will not be consistent, nor will it be on a regular basis. That is just not the place for Shechem Ra. But right, when I was on there, I did have a dialogue with someone that considered themselves to be quote unquote an astrologer. And so, we did the Western Eastern type deal where he I said some things, he said some things. Of course, people said, "Oh, right." This is, I mean, perfect show to have this conversation. Oh, well, I feel I'm that too. All right. So I said, well, then look, let's look at the father, right? Because the sun sign is always a tell all, or tell all, but a great deal of information for the father. So one of the sisters that was on the panel, she gave me her date of birth, and I know that the degree that the sun was at is at 21 degree, no, 16 degrees. That's a dangerous degree, especially for the sun. 16, 16 degrees is dangerous. 21 is somewhat, but between 21 and 23 is a better placement than 16. 16 is a star that just doesn't do very well. And so I knew that that star produces many times um, um, drug addictions or liquor, any type of addiction, like type of narcotic, or a lot of times 16 degrees is a dangerous degree. So I said, your father, right now, Mars was, I think it was, I remember Mars being in position close to it just because of the date of birth. I don't remember the exact date, but I remember I knew Mars, because once you begin to know where certain things are, you just know Mars is going to be in that proximity. So I said, well, Mars is there. I said, so your dad, right? He was addicted to drugs, probably an IV user, right? And horrible with women. That woman said, y'all, I don't know how that man knows this, but my dad is an IV drug user. That stopped the show, right? That canceled all of the other conversations, because that proved without a reasonable doubt that my information based on the position of the sun produced an effect on this plane by the person that is represented by that planet, which is what the Caracas system does. It's what Caracas do. They indicate many times on the living side of things the person that stands in the stead of that energy. And so, father being the son, I knew the father was on drugs, and I said IV because I know Mars is needles penetrating, and it's fearless. Most folks are scared of needles, right? So,
Right.
when you become an IV drug user, you have to have some the courage to be poking on yourself, right? The fear kind of is removed. So, it's just to show that the way you really use this is to find out what the person is as that's indicated as that particular planet. So, for the example, the moon, right? The moon. Let's just say, for example, his moon is in Leo. Now, granted, right? If we move that back to midnight, it might move back to Cancer, right? Check it out. Let's just say, for example, playing devil's advocate, the person says, let's say the person says, let's say, for example, his moon, he thinks his moon is in Leo, but it's really in Cancer. Question, because the moon is with K2, the moon would be with K2. Your mother, either she abandoned you, left you at an age where you weren't able to defend yourself, or was there but either indigent, mentally unstable, or wandering or home to home, he would be like, "Damn, how did you know?" Because if the moon is in Ashleisha with Ketu and Mercury is the planet that rules the moon, that person's going to move around a great deal because Mercury is the planet of moving, and moon being in that position with Ketu would be an unstable or an unstable early childhood via the mother.
Hey, look, you want
That
to tell the
would
interest?
be
Let me tell you the
what's
interesting
that?
thing about that, right? Because like I said earlier, my moon is in Leo. It's about it's in a different direction, right? My K2, that my moon K2 is in Virgo, moon's in Leo. They share the same nakshatra, right? Now, I
Mm-hmm,
right.
mm-hmm.
So I lost my mother at 15 or whatnot in my moon dasha, right? He lost his mother too when he was young, right around the same age. I think he might have been a little
See, I didn't
younger
know
than that.
that.
Yeah, so he lost his mom too at the same age as about, what I mean? But like I said, my moon is not conjunct K2, but it's kind of close. you know.
Hmm.
And
Can you
that's
change?
when
Can you change the time to midnight?
let's see.
Change the time to midnight. Look at the moon.
Yeah.
I. It's a good chance he's. You see what I mean? That change, right? That moon with K2. If so the closer the degree of moon to K2, the earlier the mother would have left. You follow? Or the earlier the mother would have been separated.
Right.
See, when it's right on K2, when it's right on it, that means from birth, right? You start wiggling degrees, you start moving time. So if it's like 1 or 2 degrees, maybe right after birth or maybe within a year.
Yeah.
2 to 3 or 4 degrees within a year or two, right? The further it, like let's say 5 to 6 degrees, then you're looking at 5 to 6, right? In that
Yeah.
range. The degrees
Mine is
become
about
more
nine
like years,
degrees. Mine is about 9 degrees away from each other. My moon and
but they're in
K2
a
is nine
different
degrees.
sign.
They're in a different
Right.
sign.
But they're in different signs though, right?
Right.
Yes.
Same
So the
nakshatra.
signs are gonna then change that whole right. It's gonna change the parameter, right?
Yeah.
But remember the third house is teenage years,
Right.
right?
Right.
So again, right? See, this is how complex it gets, folks. See, we're talking all of this because we're fairly familiar with it, but it gets complex. So someone just saying, "Oh, well, this is who I am," right? You can see full well, right? Just the nudging of the time will change the character, not the date, the time. So you got to be real careful. I mean, folks talking about my son, son, my son, my son, son. It works to for it's cute, right? It's cute. Nice
Conversation
conversation
starter.
starter. Yeah, but that's it, right? After that, you need to be coming to see Raw, right? Because he said he's such and such, such and such. You don't know if K2's with it, Mars is with it, if his opposition is. You don't know anything. You see what I mean? Then those are the details. Well, I thought he was because he was a Leo like me. We would get along. Wrong.
That's a common one right there.
Matter of fact, you're both gonna be going at each other's throats because you both gonna be trying to be the boss, right? So it helps to have the separation of energy between those things. Life is about variety. People talk about, you hear a lot of these brothers and sisters, more brothers and sisters promoting it, that the black woman is God and that you as a man are nothing but a footstool, right? Look, folks, right? In nature, right? So you've heard of Dolly, right? Most of you have heard of Dolly, the um sheep that was reproduced by cloning, right? when a creature produces asexually, it can only reproduce a carbon copy of what? Itself.
Self.
So man is the instrument of change within the matrix of what females or women bring to this planet. So the Y chromosome, which drops a piece of the X, is the change factor in the seed so that the variety, because variety produces, see, variety is about survival. See, without the male energy, the survival would diminish within the species. Differentiation is a part of survival. It helps because it brings out certain traits and qualities that are dormant. See, bees, ants, they're all the same, right? When you reproduce asexually or reproduce in a manner that is not involving, right, male and female, then they produce drones or clones, not humans, not us, right? We variety is the key to life. But in that statement, when you have individuals that hearken to, well, the woman is God, right? That means that you're losing some kind of context of understanding. Male and female are necessary for existence, right? Cannot be any other way. Well, in this science, right, in this particular science called astrology, right, it teaches you that male and female are equal. The sun is only the cherry on top, right? It doesn't mean anything in the sense that of who you are of the immediate term in the immediate terms. The moon is who you are. The ascendant is who you are. The yin side of life is more who you are. Your subconscious is 80% of who you are. When do you develop your subconscious? In your childhood, which is the moon. See, the sun you can see, it's evident. There's nothing hidden to it. But the real you is hidden, right? You have to go deep. That's why meditation is key, because you're going deeper into the recesses of the spirit, into the mind. So
Right.
the majority of us is yin in essence, feminine, hidden, right? Exactly. Diversity makes things. That's exactly what it does. So the yin side of us, the moon, right? How long does it take for you to gain knowledge of self? 28 years to be exact, because it takes at least that long for your frontal lobes to gain control over your lower faculties. So, studying the moon, the ascendant Lord, that's where the meat of the chart is. That's where the bulk of who you are is contained. And that is nothing that is discussed in the West. So when you say, I am my sun sign, right, you're really only saying that, look at me, look at how I shine, right? Do we shine all the time? No.
No.
Most of us don't even shine, right? Most of us don't shine in the sense of what we do on a daily basis, except in a very small area, right? So, think about like the sun in Aries, those people have to shine. See, when you sun in Aries, it's not an option. They shine more and more as they get older, meaning that sun becomes more prominent and they become more leadership oriented. Many people that start off young with sun and Aries are not leaders in the beginning. They become leaders as they grow up. Dame Dash is a leader, right?
Right.
However, right, as he began to mature and grow up, that was a process, and he's still learning. Sun sign is something you learn for your whole life, from the cradle to the grave. It literally reaches its culmination before you exit this planet. That's why the heart is weighed, right? Because the sun is literally the heart of the chart, right? So, considering those things, right? This is when you begin to take a step back and understand that it makes sense for it to be called a pseudoscience. It makes sense for things to seem like they're just kind of, they don't work. This stuff isn't real. And it's probably a safety mechanism to some degree. Because if you really did know
I can
the
see that.
truth, would you really choose that person? Right? Would you really choose the person you choose? Right? Think about it. If everyone on the planet knew this, would you really make the decisions that you make? So, this is a deep ponderance. It's a deep thinking. It's a thing to think deeply about, right? If you know, right, and they don't, they still make choices or lack thereof. But it's interesting how when people default together and they come together and then they look at the chart, how very different we are, right? How very awkward we are in comparison to really who we are matched to properly. You usually choose someone that is very much not like you. Why? Because it's healthy for you to gain insight into your character and nature. It's hard
Right.
to see someone that looks like you when you see yourself when someone looks like you, right? But it's easier to see when someone's very different. And so that's why it's healthy in certain charts to have differences and similarities, right? If I see a chart that they're on, like they have almost everything similar, I'm saying you're not gonna last a year, and they don't. Honeymoon phase is pretty much it, and then they're over because reality hits. When the sun hits their Saturn, I mean Saturn hits the sun, it's hitting both of them at the same time, and they're like, "Ouch, ouch! Hey, help, help! Well, I need help. Well, who's gonna help who, right?" But when there's a difference, right? There's some breadth, there's some space. When the person's getting hit, the other person says, "Hey, I got you," because I'm strengthened while you're weakened. So balance is the key, right? Balance is the real goal, right? To have some things that are similar and some things that are different. Some things that complement, some things that supplement. Some things that are in opposition, some things that are not. That is a healthy way to understand. And then you do know, right, that once you make that conscious decision, then you're aware of the battles. You're aware when they come up. You're not caught blindsided. You know kind of what's going on because you can see, hey, I know your sun is in opposition to Saturn, so you're going to go through it with your boss this month. Right? And the other person says, yeah, well, my job is cool, right? So, because think about it, if you're both going through the same thing, you're both competing for the same attention.
Right.
Not healthy. So it goes as simple as it is, right? It goes that deep because the more complexity you have within the range of interaction, not to say dissonance, right? You don't want the chart to be off completely. Then you'll never get together, right? You'll never even bond. The year won't even happen, right? Because you're so
Right.
much. There's no karmic connection,
Right.
right? So when you talk to people and they say I'm this or I'm that, understand that they're trying to, and usually they're reaching to where their Mercury is placed. That's where most people are attribute their characteristics is where Mercury is placed. If you can find Mercury and you see that it's in a different placement than the sun, it's not combust, then you can easily begin to peel apart that Mercury placement and show them how and why they would think they are one sign when they're really not. That's the easiest way to get to the crux of it because, as the example, as I stated earlier on Bigo, one of the other girls on the panel was she had 3 planets in Virgo, but her sun was in Leo. But according to the Western signs, she would be Virgo. But she's not Virgo, but she's got 3 planets in Virgo. She had Moon, Mercury, and one other planet. Moon and Mercury in Virgo? Are you serious? Right? Right? That person is Virgoing all day, right? With that moon there.
Right.
See, the sun is reading Leo, right? And it is she's Leo. You can see her, right? You can see the Leonine energy coming through, the shine, the confidence, right? It's in the background, not in the forefront. She's not like frontal attack. It's more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But Moon and Mercury, and when he started reading her Burgoan qualities, I said, wait, you're not the type of person that shies away from things typically, though, are you? And she said, no. I said, so see, that shows that sun is in Leo. I said, because Virgos, sun in Virgo, typically will shy away. And then like, damn, that makes sense. And here's the thing, I I didn't even know. I knew intuitively. I said, no, no, you got Mercury in Virgo and you got another planet there. I didn't know it was the moon, but I knew something was there. And when I pulled it up, I said, oh, yeah, that's where all your Virgoan energy is coming from. So, see, that's why it's so crucial to have just a little bit of information to know where to look for that Mercury, because it can unlock everything. Mercury in Virgo, even just Mercury in Virgo alone, is mercurial, meaning that she has a lot of propensity to have a lot of sharp, witty, right, intelligent type of thinking and reasoning capacity because it's Mercury. See,
Right.
that's when the science, that's when you apply it. Okay, well, show me the difference between the two, and then you should be able to, with ease, flip it over and say, hey, see, Mercury right here, Mercury's doing that. Oh, you're right. But see over here, your father, your son, right? Your internal disposition, right? Your general character of who you're to become is that. And there's no argument, right? There's no argument. So, this is just another way to really tie in you know, how to pinpoint and show those things that are ridiculous when we just think that we're a sun sign and that's it and we're attached to it. And most of these things are heard when we're younger, when we're less mature, and for all intents and purposes, easily manipulated. Right.
Indeed,
The other
indeed.
thing is stars and nakshatras. We got a question.
Yeah.
The planets in a prominent person's chart. Is it fair to say people can physically perceive these planets and yes,
Psychically.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, yes. Can say it fair that people can psychically, yes, absolutely. Um, just by being in someone's presence when you study astrology enough. Now, without the study, it would be fairly challenging. But many times you can pick up on people's energies. You know, um, Prince York, um, Dr. York's son, right? I was trying to study him, and he got a lot of jittery, quick, rapid, rapidated mouth type energy, just real high strung.
Right.
And I'm like, that's got to be Gemini. Got to be. It was.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, right, you're absolutely right. Because I've studied it so long, I know the patterns. I know kind of what to look for, right? Just in the general sense of things. But yes, people can pick it up. I mean, when you're psychically attuned, you'll know. I mean, let's put it. If you're not adept at astrology and you're psychically attuned, you'll pick up on things and you'll be able to articulate them. But if you're astrologically trained or astrologically aware and you're psychic, then yes, then you'll know. Man, you got 3 planets in Capricorn, and how did you know that? Just the demeanor, just the aura, right? The feel of the energy is stale, it's cold, it's indifferent, it's plain, right? You'll feel it. And so, yes, absolutely, people can sense these things psychically. That's what we do, you know. That's how we operate. Is we can pick up on, it's funny back in the day, you say, "Oh, I'm getting Capricorn vibes from you, girl," right? Right? But right, or right, oh, you got Virgo vibes, right? You know, old pickup line, right? But um, by all means, right? Vibrations, energy, right, is real. Energy is anything that is behind something that energy has to do work. So if you see someone doing something, there's energy at work. What that energy is and how it's calibrated, right, can be easily determined by understanding just very basic principles. Sometimes it's not so easy to see, but once you pick up on it and you meditate and contemplate on it long enough, you can see, right? You can see, right? For example, 3 planets in Libra, indecisiveness, right? Right? Having the inability or lack thereof to be, right, to not waddle on the fence. Right? You'll see it and feel it in a person's disposition. Just be around them for a couple days, take them to the store, right? See what they do at the store, right? Uh, 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 no, yeah, right? You'll you'll see it. You'll feel it, right? When you're sitting next to them and they're talking about something and they relate to everything, right? Libras can relate to everything because they're people, right? They kind of like a lot of different things, a lot of different people. So you can sense these things, you can feel them, right? All of it is very relative because all of it can be up picked up psychically. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. I do it sometimes just by being around people. Yeah, you got that kind of energy coming off, right? And sure enough, it's there. Each sign is easy to pick up once you know what they are, right? Once you really know, right? But that's why we got courses, right? That y'all can take that will elucidate because the first level course is where we go through and delineate how to read signs, how to read planets, right? That's the easiest stuff of astrology. That's the easy part. So, right, when we go through and start to say, hey, Cancer is this, Cancer is this, it's a cardinal sign, it's a movable sign, right? It's water, right? Da 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 da. This creature, da 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 da. You start to then you get the undertow, the undergirding signs of what it is, and then you can see it a lot easier. One of the other things, and we'll leave maybe off at this if there's no other questions or no one else has any other topics. You know, one of the things is that when you begin to really get deep into the science, it's almost like a reading or an oracle to some degree. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah.
read someone with the science before you even get this, before you even know what's going on. You sit back and the size, shape, build, right? Especially with women, right? Men are flat, right? We're flat. I mean, we don't have any thrills, no frills, right? Except muscles, right? That's it, right? That you can see, right? So with women, right, there are things you can see. One of the telltale signs of a Taurus is heavy breasts, straight up. And I ain't talking about just the ascendant. I'm talking about stelliums, meaning more than one planet, more than two planets in Taurus. The luminaries, sun and moon being in Taurus, right? Sun, it could be in the 12th house. Sun and moon is in Taurus. They're going to have a Taurian disposition. You'll see it. You'll see it. You won't miss it because those two, anytime luminaries are in a sign, the luminaries are light, and light is a major part of who we are in this particular plane of existence. So, in that case, anything that light comes through, they're going to have that disposition. If it's Scorpio, sun and moon in Scorpio, they'll have some scorpionic dispositions, characteristics physically. So it's not just the ascendant, right? There's many ways that it can come out, but just keep in mind, right, that it certain traits and certain signs are just innate. They're there, right? You can't even you can't even argue them. I think your mate has sun and moon in Sag, doesn't she?
Yep.
Right? She's probably not considered tall, but maybe taller than the women around her, and particularly in her family. Right?
Yeah, she's tall for a
A lot of
woman.
times Sag can give height to a woman when sun and moon are there. Right?
Yeah.
So again, right, considering Scorpio will shorten them, right? Each sign has its own propensity, right? Its own kind of right. Sag is big, so it's typically, not always, but typically, Sag can make people larger by height and weight. So certain things just are innate. You can begin to see them. If you got a stellium in a house or in a sign, then guess what? Now here's the thing: if they have a stellium and there's 5 planets in Libra, like for like let's say Boosie, little Boosie,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't want to get into like really breaking down charts or anything like that. But it says what happens when your Vedic moon sign is Virgo and your trop, then you're the same, right?
Yeah.
There are certain times that you're going to be the same when your planets are in the beginning of the sign, right? I'm sorry, no, yeah, when they're at the beginning of the sign, they're usually the same sign. Meaning, if you're born, let's say, for example, in the beginning of Virgo, from the what the 21st, no, let's say the 15th of September to the 21st of September, right? You're going to be Leo partially, but then you'll be also the end of it, well, right at 16, 17, it's Virgo. So it'll overlap. Sometimes they overlap. Like my birthday is August 21st. So I'm Leo in the true sense of the word, but I'm also Leo in the Western sense. So there's times when you're going to be both. Remember, there's 30 degrees and 24 degrees are off. So 6 degrees, right, is about 20% of the people. Yeah, about 20% of the people are going to be the same sign, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah. My ascendant is the same in
So
both.
yeah, to answer your question, yes, the people can be.
Yeah. My ascendant doesn't
See,
change.
see what I mean? So it just depends on the degree. Yeah, yeah, mine does drastically, right? I'm Scorpio in the West, right?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? That absolutely yes. But again, if you have planets in stelliums, folks, when that person says that's who they are, then that's who they are. If the stellium is there. Crazy enough, like Blue Boosie, right? He is Sagittarius ascendant with Mars and Sag. That is who he is. But that man is also Libra, right? In the 11th house. And the 11th house is friends, networks, social interactions. He's a party animal, right? Lil Boosie is a party animal, y'all. That is a party. That man loves the party. That's those planets in Libra. So having a good time. He is considered like they a lot of right. People want to know my moon sign. So Lil Boosie, right? He's a party animal. Party, 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 party. But guess what he does have? Diabetes. Right. All those planets in Libra affecting the kidneys, diabetes. So those stelliums, when those planets are in the same sign, then that person says, "This is who I am," then that is when it does count. That is when you can say, yeah, the sun, moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury are all there. That's you, right? And of course, you still have differences because you got other planets and other placements. But
Right.
again, stelliums will produce a lot of times people that have a lock in on that characteristic. And so that is sometimes when you can kind of say yes to some degree that is that person if that sign is localized like that. The planets are localized like that. Let's just say this:
Yeah.
I'm a head of Root clan, right? Right. So you'll know if you can guess it, right? I'm head of Root clan. So right, that's where my moon is. But nonetheless, right, this is a pretty good way to kind of gauge things and to differentiate, right? Another great person to look at is Albert Einstein. We really don't have time to get too much in depth into Albert, but it's strange in the West. And there's an astrologer. What's his name? Victor Carr. Was it Victor Carr? Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's one of these east east west astrologers that confuses the whole system. But he was basically trying to say that Albert Einstein was a Cancer ascendant, folks. No, right? Albert Einstein, a Cancer ascendant, that is not even close to being remotely possible, right? That man is a brainiac. That is what Gemini stands for, right? Being extremely intellectually endowed. That man was intellectually endowed to the point where he came up with a new theorem. Cancers don't do that, right? It just doesn't. 12th house is the Cancer. Gemini's in the 12th house for Cancer. Right? Cancers can be very intelligent, very very good memories, very astute, very good students, right? Very adept at learning. But Gemini is the sign of being able to have mental, right? Dialogue, mental vacillation, mental agility. That's Albert Einstein. And then of
Right.
course it puts all these other planets into strange positions, right? That man is Gemini. You can't deny it. So, you know, when you begin to do your research and do your own kind of studies, right? Do care comparison and contrast.
Right.
Do a Western and an Eastern. See what the difference would be. See the characteristics and how they play out. That trains you to teach you, it teaches you how to kind of help people separate the two. If you're an astrologer or you're studying to be an astrologer or you love astrology and you really want to learn like what the differences are, do two charts, do them side by side and see the differences. And you'll be surprised. You're gonna be like, wow, how could you even say that that's that person? When we talked about Nikola Tesla,
Right.
right? He had that stellium in Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
Those two planets would have moved to Cancer, and that would have produced the genius that he was.
Nah.
So, a man
Yeah,
had
like
all planets in mutable signs.
I know.
Every
Just yeah.
planet
I
was
mean,
in a mutable sign.
yeah. Cancer.
Right.
Just from my own. I mean, I'm a big picture guy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I can, certain elements I can get into the weeds and different things like that, but I'm really like a
Imagination,
overarching.
the
You know what I'm saying?
imagination. Yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
and whatnot. Like, yeah.
Imaginative, man. Yeah, because you produce works of art. Yeah, that's definitely it. So, considering that, right? Those are just ways to kind of gauge it. Stars, stars are part of nakshatras. We literally use, like I said, the 16th, that 16 degree, there's a star there. That star produces some negative effects many times at 16-degree Libra, right? So, you know, there's ways that you can go in and begin to study this stuff. And you don't necessarily have to take my course. Just begin to research it from a perspective of dualism, right? Putting one against the other and seeing how they play out, right? Seeing how they manifest. Now, when you really do study, you get yogas that make
Mm-hmm.
differences, right? Aspects that make differences, you know.
Right.
Those are the things that really are kind of, you know what I mean? Those are the things that really pull it all together. Those yogas are very powerful.
Yeah, because
I can't.
we were talking like I got a stellium in Libra, but I like personally though it's like I got to work for Libra. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not. It ain't just you know what I mean. It's like something I have to work for. You know what I mean, or whatnot. Some of my other placement comes more innate than that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Like that, like the moon, right? It's innate, right?
Yeah.
Leadership, boom, right? I got that. But Jupiter in its side,
Hmm.
definitely. But you have an exchange. Exchanges flip,
That's
right?
right.
They
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
flip things, right? And so
Yeah.
the exchange can make you feel like you're working for it. Well, in actuality, you probably have a great deal of it. Being fair is one of the things that Libra really prides themselves on, and that's one of the things I've noticed about you is fairness. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, you're definitely right on the money with that. But remember,
Mm-hmm.
um, you're a cardinal sign, and
Mm-hmm.
cardinal signs typically with other cardinal signs are forward moving. So it's always a work in progress type deal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? That's what it feels like, work in progress. It's never completed. Libras, any kind of cardinal sign never feels completed.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's a
Indeed.
lot of that energy. Indeed. But I
Indeed.
think today was an excellent conversation about
Absolutely.
really knowing how to spot some of these differences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and great, appreciate y'all interaction, man, from the live chat, man. It
Excellent,
really,
excellent, excellent, excellent.
it's a good flow in the show, so we definitely appreciate that or whatnot. So here's another episode, right? We're trucking along. We're getting, what I mean, we almost to that about that halfway point of the season and stuff like that. So we got some more great shows coming from you and stuff like that. So we thank you all for definitely tuning in and stuff like that. And we're growing, man. I mean, we're hitting, we on the podcast charts in South Korea. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. You know, so it's a lot of, slowly but surely we're trucking along and stuff like that. So definitely appreciate everybody that's checking us out. Indeed. But, without further ado, want to thank you all for tuning in. And, we'll be back next week, same time, around the same time, same place, given all the technical difficulties, we try to launch at the same time, but we be, working behind the scenes and stuff like that, getting it together. But before we officially close out, Rod, you want to say anything to the people before we out?
No, just appreciate the conversation. It was a great interaction with the audience. I look forward to having some shows where we can have people on and really have a kind of a panel where we interact and move towards building a real kind of conversation, because it's Cosmic Convos. That's the name of the podcast. And so we want to have those conversations. We want to invite you to really participate and interact. And so we will be doing that here within the future, so that it can literally become something where the public has an opportunity to participate.
Absolutely. So with that being said, everybody stay safe out there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back next week with another great episode. All right, we're out. Peace.
Peace.